Have you ever looked at a KM macros file and wondered what macros it contains? Sure, you could just import it, but wouldn't it be nice if you could just inspect it? Have you ever looked at a KM macros file and thought you'd imported it, but couldn't remember where you put the macro? Have you ever wished you could import just a few specific macros from a KM macros file? Or change where the macros get imported? Or change a macro's name? Have you ever wished you could see if the macros you'd already imported are different from the ones in a KM macros file? Well, with my new Macro Import Manager macro, you can do all of this and more. Here's the macros you get when you install the Macro Import Manager. This is the main one, and when you run it, it asks you for the KM macros file you want to import. It also comes with this macro, which you can use with Finder. It takes the selected Finder file and opens it in Macro Import Manager. Apparently I'm losing my voice here, so you'll just have to bear with me. So I've set it up here as an icon in a palette, and when you run it, it does what I said. It opens the file. So I'm just going to ramble through this. The Import Manager handles if you have more than one macro group. So you can see we've got one here, and one here. If the macros have icons, then they'll show up in here. Ones that don't have icons show up as this. There's another type of icon that'll show up as this. If you set an icon by doing something like this and picking one of these, I can't actually get the graphic image for that because it's actually stored as a string. So if you have those kinds of icons, they won't show up. So if you open a KM macros file and the macros don't exist, they'll appear like this with no underscore under them. So if you open up a KM macros file and it has macros that are already imported, then the names will have underscores on them like this, and you can click on them to take you to, in this case, the group or the macro itself. And you can see there's the macro. Otherwise, it won't have any underscores. So if you only want to import some macros, you can unselect all and then select the one that you do want to import. Now, one nice thing about this is if the macro requires other macros, it'll tell you that. And if you click yes, it'll check all the ones that are required. So this may require this, and this may require this, and this may require this, and they all get checked for you. So once you have whatever you want checked, you do import, and it tells you that it's going to import two macros in one group, and it's going to use a temp file in order to do the import. So there you go. There's the two that were imported. And if we open the KM macros file again, you'll see that they're now underscored because they already exist. So here's some of the things that you can do. You know, this says right-click on items for context menus, so definitely do that. And you'll see there's things like get info, which just tells you a little bit about the macro. You can copy the macro UUID or the name. You can copy the XML or JSON to clipboard. You can open the XML or JSON in editor. So I'll go ahead and do this one. And in this case, it opened it in BBEdit. Now in the Macro Import Manager group, there's two macros that will be of interest to you. One is Open Script in Editor. This gets called when you want to open the script, either JSON or XML, in an editor. By default, it looks to see if you have BBEdit, and if it does, it opens it in that. Otherwise, it opens it in TextEdit, which is not a very good way to open it. So if you have another editor you want to use, go ahead and put it in here. And here's the variable names that you have available to do the opening. So if you have one of the compare programs, which I'll mention in a moment, you can compare to see if the macro in the KM macros file matches what's installed. The easiest way is to do it through JSON. And in here, I'm using Beyond Compare to do the compare. Beyond Compare is a program that you pay for. My macros also support doing a compare in BBEdit, or you can use something else. Now, one of the things that I do in order to do the compare is remove some of the things that will naturally change, but that don't impact anything. Things like the action ID, or whether it was collapsed or expanded, things like that I remove out of these so that you don't get a bunch of compare stuff that doesn't help you any. So this shows that this is what's changed. I can't really think of anything else to demo right now, so this will have to do. I know this wasn't the greatest tutorial, but I hope it helps.